Cheers.
はい。Cheers. マイジー。はい。金曜日の夜6時です。今リアとリコは勉強していて、でカイとカズは
フォートナイトしてます。
フォートナイトをしていて、で私たちはご飯を作る前にちょっと最近のことをね、昨日トラス首相が
辞めて、
でイギリスもちょっと混沌としているので、そういうのをダディに話してもらって、あとジュン今ここに来てるんですけれども、ジュンのスペインの生活などを聞いていきたいと思います。
Yeah, so shall I start?
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising he got sacked. Only 2 wins so far this season.
Yeah.
You know, the standard of play was
Very
pretty
bad.
terrible.
Positioning was bad as well.
Last night they lost 3-0
to Fulham.
Yeah.
Gerrard has been sacked.
面白いですね。
まあ僕ママたちイギリス引っ越したから、家がないんですよ。まあエアビーとか、めっちゃ高くなってるんですよ。
そう
特に今年の夏から、バーンって上がって、1ヶ月泊まるだけで40万とか取られるので、
すごい高いです今バルセロナの。私も来週行くのでバルセロナにホテル見たんですけど、前よく利用してたホテルもう倍ぐらいの値段、本当に高くなってる。皆さんの気になっているイギリスの政治ですね。気になるよね。
なりますね。
昨日急にね辞任して、It was a big surprise, no?
No.
Oh really?
God, everybody was expecting it. I mean, she's been a complete disaster.
Yeah, but
Trust.
she was saying that she's not gonna resign.
Of course. I mean, you know, if you say, okay, I'm going to resign, I mean, then you
lose your
resign,
support.
right? She announced, well, her chancellor announced a few days after the end of the Queen's funeral arrangements, and the financial markets crashed basically because the British government was pledging to spend a huge amount of money on energy support for consumers, and instead of trying to balance that off by raising money through taxes, they cut taxes. You know, she became Prime Minister because she was elected by members of the Conservative Party. Okay, you can join the Conservative Party for, I think it's £25 or something like that. You don't have to be British. You don't have to even be living in the UK. You don't have to be eligible to vote in UK elections. So anybody in Japan, if you'd like to join the Conservative Party,
You can.
You can. And you know, the next time there's a Conservative leadership election, you know, you could have a vote in who's the next British Prime Minister, which is totally ridiculous. I mean, the number of Conservative Party members who are not eligible to vote in UK elections is probably very small, but it just illustrates how undemocratic this is. The number of people who are Conservative Party members, it's something like 0.1% of the population, and they chose Liz Truss as Prime Minister. The general public, you know, us, we don't have any say. We don't have any input into that process at all.
Because it's how it works.
Britain is a parliamentary democracy, so you know, the country is split up into about 650 constituencies, and each constituency elects one representative, one member of parliament. Okay, and that person is supposed to represent our views in parliament. It doesn't really work like that in practice, but that's the system. If you go back, I don't know, 10, 15 years, the members of parliament of the Conservative Party or the Labour Party chose the leader themselves, which is, at least it has some democratic validity, because our representatives are choosing who is the leader of the political party.
Yeah.
And the party with the most seats in Parliament can be chosen to be Prime Minister, or invited to be Prime Minister by the King or Queen previously. Okay, the Conservative Party members, I mean, you know, they're typically, you know, of course there are exceptions, but Many of them are elderly, wealthy, living in the south of England, you know, golf club members, driving Jaguars. You know, it's not representative of the population.
面白いですね。
The way Truss was elect, no, I'm not going to use the word elected, the process through which Liz Truss became Prime Minister was basically this. I don't remember how many exactly, but maybe 7 or 8 Conservative members of Parliament declared that they would like to be leaders of the Conservative Party. So the members of Parliament, the Conservative members of Parliament, went through a process to eliminate one by one from those candidates until they're left with 2 candidates. Okay, and they were Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. Okay, then those 2 candidates are put forward to the members of the Conservative Party. You know, you could join if you want. You could join. Anybody watching could join. And then over the summer, for what was it, more than 2 months, they had a series of hustings. They toured around the country, talking to Conservative Party members about their policies, and the Conservative Party members voted for which one they wanted, Sunak or Truss. Actually, Sunak was by quite a long way the more popular one with the members of Parliament.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Because he's not an idiot. Just a guess.
Well,
I mean, they know these people well, right? They deal with them on a day-to-day, more regular basis. The Conservative Party members occasionally see them on TV and they read about them in the newspapers, right? But they don't really know what they're actually like day to day. So Sunak was more popular with the members of Parliament, but for the membership, Truss was more popular. Why? Because she fed them red meat policies. Truss promised a lot of things which she knew would appeal to the Conservative Party members, many of whom are, frankly, in my opinion, quite detached from reality. Okay, so very right-wing policies which many of the Conservative members would love. For many people, me included, while the process was going on, when we were down to Sunak and Truss, I was thinking, and many other people were thinking, oh, crikey, actually Sunak is probably better for the country because, he, to a more extent, has got his head screwed on, right? But Truss is going to win. Right?
Why?
Because
of the member.
Because the ultimate choice was made by the membership of the party. It's about 180,000 people, something like that. So Truss won, and she became Prime Minister. She had said a lot of things during the hustings campaign when they're meeting members around the country. She said a lot of things which people thought, crikey, that's a bit crazy. A lot of people didn't expect her actually to do those things, like on day one, right? But on day one, Truss and her Chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, announced this financial mini budget. It's like the financial plan once they've taken over power. The main component of which was to provide energy cost support for consumers, which was everybody agreed that's got to be done. Okay, but instead of preserving government finances to try to pay for that, they cut taxes. So government debt would have to go up, and the financial markets said, I'm not buying government debt if this is what the UK is going to be doing. We're out of here.
How does that make sense, though? What she did? I don't get it.
Well, her logic was that by cutting taxes, we would stimulate economic growth. All right. if taxes are cut, businesses would have more money in their bank accounts, people would have more money in their bank accounts, therefore they would spend more, therefore the economy would grow. Therefore, even though the tax rate is lower, tax revenues for the government would go up. All right.
Because the economy is booming.
Because the economy would be.
But it's not going to happen,
Growing up,
right?
I know.
And she was cutting the wealthier people's tax.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous. I mean she was planning to cut the top rate of income tax from 45 to 40%. In actual absolute terms, that wasn't really such a big deal. The amount of money that would give away in terms of billions of pounds, I don't know exactly how much it was, but it's not a huge number.
Is it?
No, but politically, such a stupid thing to do during a cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Where food prices have gone up by more than 10% in the last year. Energy prices have trebled.
Yeah.
Many people can't afford to put their heating on, and you're cutting taxes for the richest people in the country. If you're earning £1 million, through that tax cut, you would have saved £55,000 a year.
I don't know how many
That's crazy.
the super millionaire in England, but
So the financial markets collapsed. The pound collapsed. The interest rate on gilts, which is government bonds, government debt, shot up to over 6%, and that has a knock-on effects on interest rates in the rest of the economy, including mortgage rates. So a lot of people who have mortgages or who wanted to buy a house have not been able to do so, and interest rates would be significantly higher than they would have been if they hadn't introduced this mini budget.
そうなんですよ。だからなんかもう反対に貧しい人たちはエネルギーを光熱費をちょっとサポートしてくれる、1年間で400ポンドサポートしてくれるっていう政府からのサポートがあるにしても、モーゲージ、住宅ローンの金利が上がってしまったので、多分それによってもっと払わなければいけないお金が増えたんです。
So, I mean the reaction from the financial markets was so bad. Trust came under a huge pressure from practically everybody, including her own MPs. I mean, the 45% to 40% tax reduction, she didn't even consult her cabinet on that before she actually announced it. I mean, it's just a whole sequence of madness. Nobody expected her actually to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, after a few days, she sacked the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who's the finance minister, Kwasi Kwarteng. She sacked him even though he had implemented the policies that she wanted him to implement. Because of the market reaction being so bad, she sacked him like a sacrificial lamb. Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
So then she appointed a guy called Jeremy Hunt as Chancellor of the Exchequer. Hunt is from the more moderate, sensible wing of the Conservative Party. Okay, and since he came in to be Chancellor, he's basically undone, I think, almost everything that was contained in the mini budget. And he's basically had all the power since then, because the Trust couldn't survive without agreeing to what Hunt, the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, was saying. So she's left looking like a complete fool, and these ideological morons who want to conduct some sort of chemistry lab experiment on the British nation. You know, they're being proven to be idiots.
Yeah.
But you know, just such huge damage has been done. The poll ratings for the Conservative Party have completely collapsed. There have been some polls in the last few days which suggested if there was a general election tomorrow, they would be the third largest party in Parliament, maybe even fourth after the Scottish nationalists. You know, they would basically be wiped out.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
the Conservative members of Parliament have basically gone to their backbench committee, which is called the 1922 committee, to hand in letters of no confidence in the Prime Minister. The chairman of the 1922 committee went to see the Prime Minister yesterday and said, look, you no longer have the support of the parliamentary party, so you know, you're going to have to resign. All right. So yesterday she made that announcement that she was going to resign. And again, the Conservative Party is going through a process to choose who's going to be the next Prime Minister. The rest of the country is jumping up and down demanding a general election.
Yeah, I think they should.
But why is it always the Conservative Party? Because they have majority in the Parliament?
Because the last general election was in 2019, okay, and Boris Johnson was their leader then, and they won a majority of about 80-something seats in Parliament. Okay, and the mechanisms to force a general election are quite complicated, but there's no way at the moment that the opposition parties can force a general election. But this is just getting ridiculous.
Does it need to be more equal or for a general election?
If the opposition tabled a motion of no confidence in the government, and there's 650-something members of Parliament, okay? If a majority of the members of Parliament voted in support of a vote of no confidence, that means they have a majority of MPs would have no confidence in the government. The government would fall and there would have to be a general election. Okay, but because the Conservative Party have a majority of 80 seats, so actually it's now 70, around 70, they're not going to support a vote of no confidence. Because most of them then would lose their jobs, right?
Yeah.
But the rest of the country, you know, many people now want a general election. This is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Conservative Party now realise that they're looking pretty damn stupid, and rightly so. So the process for selecting the next Prime Minister is nominations. I mean, members of Parliament, if they want to stand for leader of the Conservative Party, they can now put their hand up and say, I'd like to run. Okay. To get nominated, they need to have 100 Conservative MPs support them. Okay, and there's 300 and something Conservative members of Parliament, right? So a maximum of, I think mathematically, a maximum of 3 could actually go through the process, and maybe even only 2.
Okay. So who that would be?
Well, we don't know yet, but the nominations close on Monday.
Okay.
So if you're a member of Parliament, you want to run you want to be Prime Minister, you have to get 100 of your Conservative members of Parliament, your colleagues, to support your nomination. Okay. All right. And they're hoping to complete the whole process by next Friday. Okay.
So who do you think?
They don't know yet, no?
Hold on. It depends on who gets through to that stage. But it's happened in the past where 2 candidates reached the final stage, but one of them just, dropped out. Therefore, they don't have to go to the members. But the the front runners at the moment are Rishi Sunak, who, on the positive side, has been proven largely right. What he was saying during the selection process during the summer, he was basically saying, trust, your plans are crazy. You're going to crash the markets. He's been proven correct. So that's a positive for him. A negative, I don't know how true this is, but a lot of people are saying it. A negative is that he's not white. And,
Oh, that's not nice.
Well, a lot of people think that is a factor. Whether it is or not, I don't know. I mean,
はい、皆さん、先日動画を撮ってから週末を挟んでアップロードできなかったんですね。そうしたらもう首相が決まってしまいましたね。So
yeah, I mean, Unai Emery's got a fantastic track record at Sevilla, Villarreal, Valencia, Paris Saint-Germain. He's going to be a great manager for Villa.
あ、本当に
Yep. So he starts on the 1st of November.
Wow. らしいです。では
Jen, the background noise is probably not ideal.
I'm just really quiet.
No, you've been moving things around.
はい、ということでね、はい、誰が Who is the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom?
So, yeah, the new Prime Minister is Rishi Sunak.
How he's been chosen?
Wow. So,
Because we talked about how
yeah, I mean, it's nothing to do with the general public. They can all get lost. So, the process was supposed to be the Conservative members of Parliament would select two candidates to be put forward to the wider membership of the party, like last time.
Yeah.
But the party set the threshold for nominations very high. So there's 300 and something members of Parliament, Conservative members of Parliament. So in order to be nominated in the leadership contest, individuals needed to have 100 nominations to reduce the prospect of Boris Johnson being able to be nominated. Because if it went to the membership, almost certainly Boris Johnson would have won, which I think a lot of people, a lot of the MPs realised was a ridiculous thing to do. Would have been a ridiculous outcome. So Johnson, came back from his holiday. I mean, he's supposed to be working. He's a member of Parliament. He's supposed to be, at Westminster dealing with his constituents, voting on laws. But he's on holiday in the Caribbean, right? So
well, he could have. He could
flies
have
back to the UK and has photographers taking photos of him, gallantly arriving back in Churchillian style back into the UK to take command. And
nicely tanned.
No, not really, with his shirt hanging out. Well, we don't know for sure whether he got over 100 nominations, but over most of the last few days, it seemed that he was struggling to get 100 nominations. On Sunday night, he announced that even though he got 102 nominations, he decided not to put himself forward for election to be leader because it wasn't the right time to do it. Actually, very few people believe him. Probably he didn't get 102 nominations. He didn't get enough nominations. So basically, he's been lying again. to protect his reputation. Who got the most nominations from MPs? Rishi Sunak got over 150. Penny Mordaunt got, I think it was 90 something. So basically, and she dropped out. So he was the only candidate going forward. Therefore, they haven't gone to the Conservative members because there's only one person left. And that's Rishi Sunak. And some Conservative members are saying it's a travesty, it's outrageous, we're not allowed to vote. Well, screw them, frankly. What about the general public? 99.9% of people in Britain don't have any say in this process at all. It's the third Conservative Prime Minister in the space of a few months. He's... what do I think of Rishi Sunak? I think he's more trustworthy than Johnson, although that's not difficult. I think he's not crazy like Liz Truss. Again, that's not difficult. So he'll probably be better than both of them. But let's see how he gets on. But I really think the country needs a general election. But I don't think we're going to get it.
Oh, really?
Yep. So that's where we are. And I'm going to see Deep Purple tonight.
よかったね。OK。はい、ありがとうございました。ということで、また次の動画でお会いしましょう。さよなら。
じゃあ。
なんか飲みながらのお話でした。
はい。
What's for dinner?
カルボナーラ？
カルボナーラ。
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm gonna make it.
Good.
はい。
Okay.
じゃあ皆さん良い週末を。
何撮ったか忘れたの。
今日なんでみんなすごい疲れてるかっていうと、実はカイとカズの学校でチャリティーイベントがあって、24時間続けてバイクを漕ぐっていうのがあって、でカイとカズのそのスロット、全員が参加するんですけども、シニアスクール高校が全員参加するんですけども、カイとカズはカイとカズの学年は4時から8時までやらなきゃいけないんですね。4時から8時って朝の
深夜だよ。
深夜。
AM.
So what time did you wake up?
Well, I didn't really go to sleep at all.
やばくない？
I was planning to get up at 2:45 because I needed to leave with Kai and Kazu at 3:30. So I went to bed about 10:30. But I don't know, in the last few years, if I know I've got to get up like super early for something,
You don't
I
sleep.
can't sleep.
Yeah.
So I was awake the whole time until 2:45, and then actually I got up about 1 and came down here and had some cornflakes and checked Twitter and various other things. Went back to bed for a bit, couldn't sleep. So got up at 2:45, woke Kai and Kazu, took them to school. It's great driving at 3:30 in the morning. No traffic.
いつもはすごいトラフィックがあるんですけど
男だなって思う。
Came back, couldn't sleep because I was wide awake then, of course. So I stayed awake until about 12, and then I slept for a couple of hours.
Because I came down and I thought, oh, it's gonna be I wanted to film the breakfast where everyone eats, Lialico, everyone, and I came down a bit late, and there's nobody in the house. I think Mama was sleeping, and then you came back. You went to bed as well.
ダディが起きてるっていうことは私も寝れてないんですよ。やっぱりダディが1時に起きて下に行ったら私も起きて、でダディが帰ってきてからも寝れてないからほとんど寝れてなかったんですね。
ママはリアのベッドで寝てたんですよ。
でだから朝ごはんを作って、でリアとリコをダディが送りに行って、でそれからちょっと片付けとかした後で寝ました。2時間ぐらい。
はい。僕は頑張って1日を動画に収めました。
はい。じゃあ